The Courting, Chapter 2. The Inheritance. Harry's point of view. The last days have been filled with studying. Mother has taught me how to be a submissive Veela, and what changes will happen in my body when I turn 17. Father has taught me about the traditions of the Reynold, Grand, and Prince families and Veela history. Turns out, even though the Reynold family was a Muggle family, they still had Veela blood. That's why Father was a pureblood. Creature blood doesn't mix with human blood, so there are no 3/4 Veelas, but only half and pure. But they're all 3/4 Veelas, when the last quarter is creature blood too, like a vampire. Tonight, I will turn 17, and I will start the courting. That was basically a bunch of dominant Veela humans and other creatures that would ask me to be their wife. But that wouldn't be so easy for them because I had to set up some rules for them and me. Mine were sent to the Veela elders, who will send an enforcer who will watch over the courting, and the rules for the dominance will be publicly put up for those to see. I had put on a nice black dress when I went to dinner. It was backless, so in case my inheritance came early, my dress wouldn't drip. Father and Mother were already seated. Harry, I will let this slip today because of the special circumstances, but in the future, don't wear such revealing clothing. You aren't some whore. My father scolded me. He always made sure that I looked presentable and professional. Come on, Tom. Let him have some fun. He's turning 17, not 12, Mother said, while I sat down and started putting food onto my plate. Sadly, I just got him back, and now I need to let him go again. Father sighed. It's not like I'll be leaving with the first male creature I see. Calm down, Father. I tried. My parents sighed together, and we ate in silence. Suddenly, I felt warm under my back. Is it normal that I'm warm under the skin of my back? I asked. Mother nodded and told me to stand up, so I did and looked questioningly at him. I don't want feathers in the food, son. Now don't freak out. It seems that your inheritance decided to greet us early. The skin will get warmer, and then you will feel a little pinch. You need to lean forward so you don't fall back, but also not too much so you don't fall onto your face, Mother explained and sat on Father's lap. I knew why they didn't come near me. Nobody knew how big my wings would be, and nobody wants to be thrown into a wall by his son's wings. Then I felt the pinch, so I leaned forward, but not enough. I felt how something broke out of my back, and I was pulled back. I fell backwards. Mother ran to me and helped me up. Finally, something about him's like me. You owe me 2 galleons, love, he said and began touching my wings. Strangely, it didn't feel uncomfortable, but soothing, like something I longed for my whole life. Well, you won, my dear. But this is a pretty pair of wings you've got, son. Some that are pointing down. They are for self-defense, but they are pretty big, like the ones of your mother, Father explained. It was clear that I was to have self-defense wings, but not others. I was a submissive after all. Harry, let's try to retract your wings. It won't be comfy with them out, Mother said. I nodded and started imagining how the wings would retract into my body. Tomorrow, Father wanted to present me to his men in a meeting, and the courting would start. The next day. After eating cake with my parents and talking about today's evening, an all too well-knowing owl fell through the open window. Who is it? Mother asked. Only by looking at the owl, I knew who it was. It's Ronald Weasley, I guess. I need to answer it, I sighed. Directly after another hour ended. I bet it's Hermione Granger, Mother said and gave me the letter. You won't answer those letters. Let them believe something happened to you. We will send their own letters back if you really need to. Then read them, Father said. Then he went to his study and I followed Mother out of the mansion and into the backyard. There were flower beds and trees that Mother needed for potions, and it looked really pretty. I decided to read the letters here. I wore a flower dress and sandals, so I didn't have to change, and I simply could sit down under a tree and open the letters. When I opened the first, I felt my hair fall into my view. It had grown, and I didn't really know what to do with it, so I enchanted some flowers to make a crown and set it on my head to keep my hair in place, at least a little bit. I opened Ron's letter first. Dear Harry, yo bro, I wanted to congratulate you on your birthday. I won't be coming to Grimblewald's place. I need you to prepare for school, but Jenny will be there. She hasn't shut up about you all summer. You know how much she likes you. Sorry that I couldn't send you a gift. You know we don't have much money. Hermione is still getting on my nerves. But we're both happy to see you again and to go Horcrux hunting. I'm sure you can defeat you-know-who. Bye, Ron. Ron always thought that I didn't notice that he wrote Jenny, and no money, bigger than the rest of the stuff. He wasn't really smart when he thought this would bring me to give him money or date his sister. And I started laughing when he wrote that he was preparing for school. He won't be going to school this year. I'm sure he was chilling in his room or eating stuff. Well, let's see what Hermione had to say. Dear Harry, we're all really concerned about your well-being. You aren't at home, and there was no one who was able to explain your disappearance. You know that we need to prepare for our journey this year, and Dumbledore is going crazy with you missing. When you're home and read this letter, please send us one back. You're being really irresponsible with leaving the Blood Wars and not telling anyone where you're going. We'll talk later. Hermione. Granger, being her bossy self, her letters were all over the place. A lot like her essays. She mostly writes them beforehand and orders them after. Hermione may be smart, but her thoughts were all over the place, just like Luna's. I sigh and put a repairing spell onto the letters, so that it will look like they were never open. Then I leaned back against the tree and watched my mother work in the garden. He really loved his plants. He tended to them like they were his own children. Father told me that whenever he and Mother had fights, the flowers would look sad and hurt, like a child when they found out that the parents didn't get along. And whenever Mother had a practically good day, the plants would engulf him with their colors and smells, so the garden was a display of Mother's feelings. Now it seemed to glow, meaning that he was more than happy. I slowly walked through the backyard and watched how the flowers bent in the wind. I felt truly happy. Finally, I had a family that I always wanted, and I was free from my fake friends. It wasn't the scenario I always dreamed about, but I would never change it. I found out that Voldemort wasn't insane, but well aware of what he was doing. Strict father. Snape wasn't just an ill-tempered potions professor, but a loving mother and wife. I loved how my father would teach me about the Veela and family history without leaving important pieces out like Dumbledore. I loved how my mother spent a lot of time with me talking about fashion and the perfect man for me, even though he made some strange suggestions and supported my ideas. When I entered the house, I found something that I wished to throw out of my memories. My parents were standing in the living room, snogging. Gosh, ah! I let out a screech and my parents jumped away from each other. Hello, Harry, my father said, pressing the head of his embarrassed wife into his chest. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. I wanted to open the door when my father stopped me. We shouldn't have guessed. I didn't invite anyone, he said, grabbing his wand. My mother took me and placed me behind the sofa, ready to protect me from every danger. My father nodded to my mother and pulled the door open. Put down your wand immediately, the person behind the door answered, making me laugh. Good evening to you, Lord Grant. Are you able to take down your wand? It's nearly poking me in the eye. I had started rolling on the ground laughing. There stood Neville Longbottom, wearing a professional suit, completely unamused and telling the Dark Lord what he had to do. My father just stood there and didn't know what to say. Let him in, Father. Neville, why are you here? I asked as the young man entered the room. He wanted to give me his hand, but I hugged him. Hello, Harry. I will explain in a minute. Firstly, happy birthday. Feels good coming into your inheritance, right? Neville asked, while I made him sit on the sofa. Mother and Father sat on the opposite couch, while I sat on the seat. Well, I guess I should introduce myself. My name isn't Lord Neville Longbottom, but I'm the youngest enforcer working for the Veela Council. I was given your case and will be here with you until your courting is finished and you have found a suitable mate. You will not need to pay me. Giving me a room to sleep will be enough, Neville said, and waited for my parents to say something. Well, Neville, how come that the Veela Council employed such a young man? Mother asked. It runs in the family. My grandmother was an enforcer, my great-grandmother was one, and so on. My father would have been too if he hadn't turned his back against the Veela Council and decided to work for Dumbledore instead, he explains, and Father made a noise of agreement. Harry, please show our new guest to his room, then change. We will be leaving soon. Father instructed, and I stood up, never following me. He grew this summer. Now he was at least 5'11", and he must have exercised too. I see you found your way out of Dumbledore's claws. I'm happy for you, Harry. I hope we will get along during this time we spend together, Neville said, and Harry just nodded. I already asked my mother what your job was, but he wasn't able to answer because he couldn't remember from his teenage years. I tried to ask. Well, Harry, I will watch out that the courting is taking accordingly to the Veela rules and the rules you implied on yourself and the suitors. If the rules aren't followed, I am to punish you or the suitors accordingly. But most of the time, I will check your mail with you, check the background of the men, and I will try to help you through your courting. You said you were going somewhere. We had arrived in his room. Oh, there will be a Death Eater meeting so that we can announce the beginning of the courting. We kept it secret so no one would have an advantage. I guess you will have to come too, I replied. Neville nodded. I will bring you one of my father's clothes. Please be downstairs in 5 minutes. I left him alone so he could change or whatever he needed to do. I ran to my room and dressed myself in a plain black dress. I didn't want to give away my preferences. Then I put on a cloak with a hoodie while scurrying downstairs into the living room. Father had already thought about Neville and gave him a cloak. Well, let's go, Father said, and we took the portkey to the old mansion we used as a meeting place. It was really just a big room with a long table. On the head of the table stood 3 chairs, meant for Father, Mother, and me. Around the table were normal chairs and some bigger ones for the heads of the family. Nobody was here yet, and there was a specific reason why the family, Prince Grant, was overly early. The mighty Dark Lord wasn't able to land properly with a portkey and always ended up falling onto his butt. Set myself down and wanted to put a seat next to mine for Neville, who would have rather stayed by my side and watched the scenario from there. Then, let the meeting begin. End of Chapter 2.